Welcome into the 94th episode of the Sabermetrics podcast. My name is Bill. Alongside me, as always, is Walt. Walt, how you doing today, man?
Oh, doing pretty good, especially after that big Sabres win that we're recording almost right after. So
Yeah.
definitely on a bit of a Sabres high right now.
Absolutely. We were planning on recording on Thursday, which was after the Calgary game.
Yeah.
And let's just say I'm glad that we didn't, because it's going to be a lot more fun this episode. Like Walt said, Sabres just beat Carolina. Had a little bit of decent luck against Carolina here in Buffalo last year. Got a couple wins against them as well up here in Buffalo. So it's good to see them continue that again. We'll start talking about a lot of positives that came out of today. Thought, I think first things first, because it's not only about today, but Matthias Samuelsson. Before I go on my long tirade, Walt, what are your thoughts not only about him just, today's game or whatever, he dumped some guy in front of the net, but in general? I mean, this entire season, it's been really impressive.
Yeah, I mean, we were talking on this podcast about, how Samuelson really doesn't have an identity like this entire
Yeah.
offseason, even last season too. But it seems like this season, it seems like he's carving out that identity. And like, sure, he is playing a little bit more physical too, but he's also just playing like a very like smart and simple game as well.
Mhm.
I mean, even just today's game against the Hurricanes, I kind of noticed how like if the puck gets into a dangerous area in front, he'll make like a quick just like pass against the boards or a quick pass to a teammate to get it out of there. He's just not trying to do too much. He doesn't
Mhm.
look, overwhelmed there. So I think that alone is just like the confidence in his game is much different this year. And then, just going back to that physicality part too, I thought this game against Carolina, as another example, with Jackson Blake in front of the net, just absolutely destroys him
Yeah.
on that play. So that was pretty cool to see. And yeah, he's just playing great hockey. And it's, extremely unexpected, I'd say. Like he was not a guy ahead of my radar for, playing like this season, but it's
Mhm.
definitely a welcome surprise.
Absolutely. I think it's something that we were definitely concerned about. I was someone saying we need to buy this guy out. One, for like the
Yeah.
money portion of things, because it was a third instead of two-thirds of a contract. But I mean, just with the play that was being produced by him, unfortunately, again, we're talking negatively, but this is in the past, luckily. Um, and just the injury history, and especially after the Thompson situation, especially after what Thompson said this summer about how he wasn't exactly
Yeah.
thrilled that no one had the guy. It's just that culmination was like, look, like you can't have this guy around anymore. Well, boy, was I wrong, and I'm happy to be wrong because he's playing fantastic. And I understand, like, it is only 20 games, fine, fair enough. But if you can get this kind of player out of him going forward, I mean, absolutely, I will eat my words about buying him out
Yeah.
every single game because he's playing very well. Like you said, very simple. He doesn't look lost out there. Looks like he has just a little bit more speed. He's not like a burner by any means. Never has been, never will be. But looks like he's just a little bit better on his skates. I mean, look, Jackson Blake, not the biggest customer, but if you're dumping guys in front of the net like that, getting the crowd going, that's good too. They obviously love him behind closed doors because he still has the A on his chest. And I would definitely say, based off of this season's results, definitely deserves it as well. So I think that's a little bit of a teaching moment for me to be, look, if he's really not playing well, try to take it with a grain of salt because who knows? There's another side of these players, and Matthias Samuelsson is a very good example of that. I couldn't be happier for him. I will gladly sign that little apology form. I'm sure it's been
Yeah.
floating around there somewhere. I will gladly sign that because that means the guy's playing well. And it not only is he playing well, that means the team's hopefully playing well around him, and it seems to be the case. So I'm really excited to kind of see how this keeps going. Again, it's still a relatively small sample size, but we're about a quarter of the way through the season. We're pushing Thanksgiving. I think you can say he's having a pretty good season so far, and I'm
Yeah, and
really
the
excited
stuff
for him.
he's doing, it's like repeatable stuff too. Like I just saw a few of the plays he made this last game against Carolina. Like this is stuff you could do like every single game. Like it's not like he's someone who's hot. I mean, I'm sure he has a lot of goals, but it's not like
Yeah,
he's like a winger that's like shooting from the point and somehow score like 7 of his last 12 shots. Like
empty
the
net
good parts of
merchant,
his game are repeatable.
and they have been. You've been seeing him making consistently good plays. It's not like he has a good game here and then a really crappy one here and then like an all right one here and another bad one. Then he has a good. No, he's staying pretty consistent in that sense too. So I I don't really have anything else to say except keep going, and I couldn't be happier for him. Being one of his biggest critics, I mean, I think that goes to show how well he's playing. So I got to give credit where credit's due. I know it might be easier for people to flip on him if he has a bad game or two or makes some mistakes, but I think the sample size is pretty good and shows a good trajectory for the rest of the season. Another person showing a decent trajectory for the rest of the season. Excuse me, Jack Quinn. What are your thoughts on Jack Quinn's play more recently? I know it might have been a rougher start to the season, but definitely recently, it seems like he's getting to skating a little bit more, getting to the harder areas, getting to the center of the ice. Was a little worried today when it looked like he hyperextended his elbow on the goalpost, but it was from getting to the middle, getting a better quality chance. What have you thought about Jack Quinn so far this season?
I think he's been playing a little bit better than expected. Like I think this past game he had a good game on his line. I think he's someone where if you throw him on a solid enough line, I think he could be a decent piece there. I don't think he's someone that can transform a line without a lot of talent into being a really good line. So I think that's kind of where the thing comes with him. So I don't know. I guess we'll see how this rest of the season plays out. Like he does have a somewhat sizable cap hit for what he brings to the table. And there are other guys, kind of waiting in the wings to kind of take over, just that scoring depth role in the Sabres lineup. Like we saw Rosen get sent
Yep.
back down to Rochester today. Uh, if he's someone that goes on a tear in Rochester, is called up again at Buffalo and, plays well here, is he a guy who could replace Quinn next season? So I think there's still a lot of story left to be written with him, but I think for what he's been asked to do, he's been a solid piece for the Sabres this season, and I think that's a good thing too. I think the kind of the concern was, especially after the last season he had, was that he'd be like a liability out there because he did suffer from injuries that can affect your skating. He already wasn't an incredible skater to begin with, so there was some concern there. But I think he's done enough this year to kind of dispel those concerns that he'd be a liability on this roster. I think at a lot of points this season he's been somewhat of an asset.
Yeah, and there's definitely a few times where it's been not great as well. There was an overtime
Yeah,
where he hesitated, and by the time he made a move, it was too late. Who was that against? Oh man, it's slipping my mind. But yeah, it's
one of
one
the
of the things
12
with
overtime games.
yeah, exactly. Yeah, they all jumble together at this point. Man, it's if this was live, someone would say it immediately. I'd be like, of course, but for some reason, I just can't put it together. But I guess just kind of piggybacking off of that, I'll finish up the Jack Quinn thing first. It hasn't been perfect, but it's been solid. And look, he's not making absurd money. He's making more than I would probably pay him, but it's not like he's making absurd money. So for what, like you said, what you're asking of him, it's been overall I'd say solid. I don't necessarily want to say decent, but it hasn't been terrible. Hasn't been
Yeah.
fantastic. I think he has more to give, but I think we've also seen the other side of things. So where he's playing right now, pretty solid. I was going to get to this a little bit later, but let's move it up now. Zach Benson has returned, and so I wanted to get your thoughts on not only him coming back and the way he played this game, but what he can bring going forward to a team that past couple games playing pretty well. But before that, Isaac Rosen was sent down. What were your thoughts on his stint? I thought he played very well. And do you think he is Ostlin is still with the team, so he's probably the number one guy to get called up. But it seems like if I like you said, Isaac Rosen goes down, plays well, he can be right back up with the next injury. I'm assuming that's what you would do with Isaac Rosen. So not only that, but just in general, recapping his time with the Sabres so far.
Yeah, I will say it was nice to have Benson back in the lineup. And I always, anytime I watch the Sabres play the Hurricanes, I always think like the Hurricanes would like love Zach Benson in the lineup. He just reminds me of like such a Hurricanes type of player
Yeah, it sure does.
because they got guys like Jarvis, Blake, Stinkoven. I'm like, wow, like Benson would fit in perfectly there. And
Sure
he had
would.
some good battles today too.
Mhm.
Uh, even like going head to head with Jarvis and Blake sometimes. I know he broke up a shot in the slot, and then like Blake got back at him when Benson had an open shot and got there. So, just some good, smart hockey from Benson. Just the way he's able to think of things on the fly. Like there was that one chance he had in front, didn't really have like an open shot on net, so he decides to do kind of a shot pass almost off the goalie's pad where he just takes a shot to try to get
Mhm.
a rebound there. Like just smart stuff like that. It's just stuff you wouldn't expect from a 20-year-old hockey player, guy that wasn't even a top 5 pick. So it's just cool to see. And I think it's going to be great to have him back in the lineup. Then I think like Rosen too, just going over to him. I think the main problem with him at this point is just the fact that he doesn't have to pass through waivers. I just think
Yeah, that really gets them.
it's yeah, because they're really not. I wouldn't say they're icing like the best players possible right now. Like, sure, there's
Mhm.
not like a massive difference between the guys playing over Rosen some nights, but at the same time, the reason he's being sent down is because he doesn't have to go through waivers. Uh, I don't really know if it's the right decision because I do know that like having a guy like Josh Dunn on the fourth line, like he's someone who could probably pass through waivers if they had to send him down. But then you're going up the lineup. Like they're not going to waive Greenway. They're not going to waive Krebs yet, at least.
No, they're not gonna waive
So
Krebs.
yeah, so it's just like if you're looking for that fourth line type, Rosen's not that guy, and he unfortunately gets pushed out of the lineup. But I do think his play was definitely good enough to stay in the Sabres lineup.
Yeah,
I just think there's just so many. I think there's just so many numbers in that middle of the lineup of guys that
yeah,
are similar to his level that he kind of gets pushed out there.
yeah. Waivers definitely doesn't, or I guess the lack of waivers really doesn't help them in that sense as well. I, I mean, I think when it comes to Roseanne, it's this was your last chance. You have to do something. And he did something for sure. So again, it's
Yeah,
he still has a long way to go. It's not like, okay, I played well for however many games he actually played. I think I actually have it here. Oh, I had it here. I'm looking at a bunch of stats. I can start doing some more advanced analytics here, just since we are about a quarter of the way through, and we have some games before the Sabres,
I mean,
or
it looks
excuse me,
like
some
10
days before the
games
Sabres games.
played.
10 games played. That sounds about right. He is
Yeah.
over about 100. It's like 130 5-on-5 on ice minutes, I believe it was. I'm just trying to go off of what I saw about 30 minutes ago. But anyway, I thought he played well enough that it's like, look, we asked you, hey, this is it. Can you do it? I think he did. I think he can show that he can be an everyday NHLer. He's very much like Uslan when it comes to size and strength. You just need to give them more time. They're not built like Yuri Kulik. So that is something to also keep in mind where might need to give him a little bit more leash, but at the same time, you don't want to give him a leash until he's like 27 years old. It's like the Lawrence Pilot leash. Well, he still could get a little bit better. He still
Yeah.
could get a little bit better. I mean, he's like 26 and a half, pushing 27. Like, I think he is who he is, but he's only played a couple of years pro here in America. Maybe he could. So, yeah,
I mean,
like,
if you're looking at some teams though that are like contenders, like just looking at their cap situations where they're very strapped, and even a team like Edmonton, like look at some of the guys they play in their top six some nights. Like I feel like
yeah,
if he can't find a role in Buffalo, I could see him signing for like a league minimum or close to it on like a contender, and being a guy who could fill in
yeah,
on a power
Toronto,
play. Yeah, or
like
even like
they're,
yeah, someone like Toronto.
yeah, just a
Because like
very,
he's not a bad player at all, and I think
no,
even just looking at goals above replacement, like he had more goals above replacement. I mean, sure, it's a small sample size than Jack Quinn, Kozak, Malenstyn, Josh Dunn, Jordan Greenway, Kulik, Zucker, Krebs. So he was like firmly in like the middle of that Sabres forward group in terms of goals above replacement. So I don't know. I'd love to see more from him. I mean, I would have loved to see him play this past game. I think he could have slid Kozak down to that fourth line, and I think you could have put Rosen on that third line with Oslin and Benson. Because I
I
think
think you're
Benson is responsible enough to handle that.
I think so. I don't think that would be a bad line, but I guess this leads me into my next man. We are segue kings today. This leads me into my next thing. Fourth line, because Jordan Greenway was a scratch today. You just signed him not too long ago for $4 million a season for 2 seasons or three. Oh crap. I'll look
Two,
that up.
I think.
Two? It was
Two,
two. Okay.
yeah.
For some reason, I thought it was three in the back of my mind.
No,
So I was like, I
that'd have
don't
been
want to say two
terrible.
and be wrong. Be like,
Yeah.
actually, it's three. Yes. So, okay, fair enough. It might be something that you can move on from. It is a bit of a high AAV, but I mean, what he could be he could just be dinged up, and they were like, "Look, we just needed to give him a game, and then once we get him back, Alston's going down or something like that." Or he might be in a position battle, and it could be. And my thought process was, okay, this is now turned into Dunn versus Greenway. And if the Sabres are, it's very much like the goaltenders. If the Sabres are playing well, the fourth line's playing well, team wins. We keep Josh Dunn in the lineup. Now, I will say Josh Dunn took a horrific tripping penalty today. Touched the guy went flying, and Josh Dunn. I
Yeah.
mean, you can't do that. Sorry, Josh. I know you're an avid listener. Obviously, that was what was going on with the referees today?
I
Anyway,
I think that angle he saw from maybe looked weird. That's the only thing I could think of
yeah,
because
that's so that to be fair, it is we get different TV angles and and we get it from more a little bit up top, whereas a ref is on the ice and you might be blocked by Dunn, and next thing you know, he sees a
yeah,
stick
but
go under.
still, like, if you're making all that money to be an NHL ref, though, you gotta know your angles at some point. That was a rough call.
Really bad call. So, what is your thought? Just did you think I'm barking up the right tree, thinking it might be like a Dunn versus Greenway kind of thing, or how does Greenway
Yeah,
get back in the lineup? What's going on?
I mean, I think you are right with that, and just looking at the cap hits and really just the perceived value of the two players, it's kind of crazy that we're at the point where Josh Dunn, a guy who cleared waivers before the season started,
Yeah,
was kind of seen as an AHL guy, has outcompeted a guy that's signed a 2-year, $4 million deal that had a decent amount of interest at the trade deadline last
yeah.
season.
I mean, he was good
So
before his injury last season too. I thought
yeah,
Greenway was a good player, effective. He might not have been lighting a lamp or anything like that, but he was throwing his body around.
he's good on the PK too. But the only
Yes, he
problem
was.
is like you're only on the PK so much every game. You still have to play like 10 minutes of 5-on-5
Yeah.
in like the role he's asked to be in, and he was pretty bad playing 5-on-5. So I still think just because of his perception around the league, I still think it is a movable contract. I mean,
Probably have to
I don't know.
retain. I think you
Yeah,
probably have to retain at least a
it
maybe like
just
a
all
million.
depends on too if they move him or not. I think what happens with Tuch, because if they do resign Tuch, they're gonna have to
Yeah, he's got to
find
go.
that cap space somewhere.
Yeah.
And I think moving that 4 million is like the easiest thing you could possibly do.
Agreed. I do like Jordan Greenway. Wouldn't necessarily be cheering if he left, but at the same time, to make room for players you like, you sometimes have to get rid of players you like, and
Well,
that's just the.
that's also the thing too. Like I know like it was definitely smart for him to get that money, go for like a 2-year $8 million deal.
Mhm.
But at the same time, in terms of like your future career outlook, having that $4 million cap hit attached to you instead of like a 3.5 or
Yeah.
3.2 for maybe a little bit more term, it just makes you,
Good point.
kind of it just makes like your security at the current team just a lot more like difficult to
That or just
guarantee.
it's easier bait for fans to be like, "You make $4 million and you're playing like this, or you can't even crack the lineup,"
Yeah.
versus if it was like $2 million, people would still not be
So
necessarily great, but
it's
probably
almost
wouldn't be
better
switching.
going for a term. Like it's almost better
Yeah.
just going for less cap hit, more term. I don't know if that was offered to him though, but I think the fact that his cap hit's 4 million and cap could get tight for the Sabres next year, depending on what they do, it's just it just makes him the prime candidate to move. And it used to be Samuelsson too, but unless Samuelson's game completely falls off a cliff, he's not going to be a guy that moved next season. So
I
I'd
mean,
say,
they weren't
it's
even gonna
just
move him this summer because you heard what Kevin Adams
yeah,
said, like, "I feel bad for the fans
forgot
because
about
that's a
that.
complete lie," and we were like, "You should be," and then, again, apology for him. Um, I will say that I think when it comes to term, and this is just in general, when it comes to term and money and the way these contracts are structured, I was listening to, I believe it was the CJ show, Chris Johnston, through the Steve Dangle Podcast Network, and he was talking about, I think they said somewhere, I think this is what it was. It was 36% of contracts in the NHL have some kind of like no trade or movement, some kind of clause in that sense. And it almost feels like some of these players, especially just for the security, 2 years, 4 million. How about 4 years at 2 million, or and some kind of like 10 team no trade list or something along those lines. I'm just giving an example. Obviously, it's not, might not be optimal for keeping someone around that to have a no trade clause in their contract, even if it's a modified one, and have someone for 4 years. But for the player's sake of having that kind of security and being able to necessarily choose where they go, maybe take a little less money for that. What's your thoughts on that? There are other things. There's one person I really want to talk about, but before we get there, what's your thought on just the every person's different. Every agent's going to pitch it to their player differently as well. But what's your thought on would you take a shorter term, more money, or would you take longer term, maybe a little less money, but then you can kind of dictate maybe where you go if things aren't working out, or, it's getting towards the end of your contract and it's time to move on. What are your thoughts there?
Yeah, I think as the system works now, that probably makes sense. I mean, it really just depends on the player with what their
Yeah.
preference would be. I do think I don't know how this would be enforceable, but I do wish there was like a cap on the amount of guys with trade clauses that can be carried on a team, because it seems
Like the
like
amount of,
every single contract is
yeah,
like has a
like
modified no trade clause.
there's a cap on how many contracts you can retain on when you make trades that you can, I think, retain
Yeah,
3 at a time, 3 contracts at a
yeah.
time. So, like, something like that, like 5 guys or or
Or
7
you've
guys.
got
Yeah.
to. They could do something too, where you have to have like a certain amount of service with one team in order to like toss in a no, like something like I know baseball's got like different
That'd
stuff
be
like that.
that'd be tough at free agency, though, because you're
Yeah,
talking teams you haven't played for, so it's tough.
I don't. I don't know. It's just like it's crazy to see. Like I was just looking at Greenway's Puckpedia page, and he's like a 5 team modified no trade clause. So it's like if you're a team that's terrible and you're on every single person's no trade clause list, like the only way to get out of it's to draft with the way the current system's set up.
Guess who has to do that a lot?
Yeah,
Hate to say it, like, this is what we're trying to be positive and everything. Teams back to
yeah,
500, good launching point. They're not down in the dumps, as of yet. I mean, they are towards the cellar of the Eastern Conference, but it ain't over yet. They still have a chance to crawl back in, but yeah, it's kind of
yeah. Because
saber
they
tissue right
put in
now.
all these safeguards to try to make like a competitive league, and then they completely overlook stuff like the modified no trades clause, no trade
Yeah.
clause, no move clause stuff. And
Good luck trying to
that's
get that
been
through the NHLPA is what I'm
yeah,
trying to
I
say.
know.
Good luck with that.
I mean, they somehow got the salary cap there, which does more against the players than this ruling would. So I don't know. I guess we'll see what happens,
For
but I'm
sure.
not expecting any ruling on that anytime soon.
Yeah, it's something interesting to talk about. That's definitely more an off-season topic. So let's get back to the in-season stuff. Someone I wanted to actually mention before a play that happened this afternoon, Beck Malenstyn. Oh my lord. Dun-dun-dun, dun-dun-dun. SportsCenter top 10. Go ahead and snack on that, Sam Lafferty. That broke my heart when I saw Sam Lafferty make that move and score. It's
Oh
just like
yeah, I
the only thing
forgot
he
he
could
just
do
did
for
that.
Buffalo is take penalties. So
Yeah.
we're not talking about him. We're talking about Beck Malenstyn because I wanted to actually talk about him basically saying, and I said it like put it out there on X earlier, basically saying like this guy every single game he shows up and he's giving you that fourth line energy that you're looking for. Yes, he doesn't have the skill. Sure, he got traded for a second round pick. That's nothing Beck can hand or it's nothing he can do about that. And I wanted to mention like I think he's very well deserved a fourth line role, and he shouldn't be talked about as a guy that could be. Well, is he a tweener? Because I in the beginning of the season I thought maybe he's like your 13th forward. No, 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 no. He might be your 12th forward, but he deserves to play every single game. I mean, just the way you hear him hit the boards when he's trying to hit people sounds like a car crash. It's just different when he hits the boards than anyone else. He's a heavy player to play against. He's giving 110% out there. And I think that fourth line's been pretty solid for them. And then I was actually thinking that was really funny because I knew we were recording later. I was thinking that and about 3, 4 minutes later of game time, what do you know? He absolutely dances Sebastian Aho and scores. And thank God he finished that because nothing worse than making a play like that when guys like him usually don't and then not finishing. So he has that, you know, he probably got I wasn't going to say the sword, but the belt. I don't know. I feel
Oh
like they
yeah.
probably had to give him the belt for that. That was nasty. So not only that move, of course, you can give him praise for that, but what have you seen from Beck Malenstyn that either has you agreeing with me, thinking that he should not come out of the lineup, or anything else that you wanted to mention about him?
I think I'm somewhat biased against the guy because Friday night I just watched BU play Northeastern, and I thought Cole Hudson was, one of the honestly, I think he's just as good as Lane. I tweeted it out on Friday, but I think he's just as good as Lane can be in the NHL once he finally signs with the Capitals. But
Hope not, I
you
guess.
know, throwing that off to the side, Sabres wouldn't
Yeah.
have drafted Cole Hudson even if they kept the pick. They weren't even going to draft Lane Hudson in his draft year. I don't even think they interviewed him. So
Jeez.
uh, I think all that aside, all the Hudson family stuff aside, I do think that Malenstyn's been like an effective fourth line player. Like you said, he throws the hits and stuff. And even
Mhm.
last season too, in that fourth line was like a tragic disaster. Like he wasn't as huge of a liability
No.
for the Sabres team last season as someone like Lafferty was.
Mhm.
So
And Obi Kubel.
yeah, Alvin Kubel is just like, why did they spend all this money to bring a guy and they probably weren't planning on keeping with the NHL team that long? So
I don't know. I mean, thanks for giving away that puck up in Montreal, big guy. That was a mess. I'm glad that experiment didn't last into this year. I'm glad they got rid of Lafferty and Obey Kubel and everyone that really
I
wasn't
mean,
necessarily working.
ideally you just keep a guy we saw today, Eric Robinson, like a Robinson,
Yeah,
Malenstyn, throw Kozak at center, whoever.
yeah.
I
I
feel like
think
that would have been a fun fourth line.
I guess. Well, this is. I'm so tired of talking about the fourth line because at the end of the day, they play like 10 minutes total. Maybe like eight
It
minutes
depends. I mean,
of
we do
five
have
v
Lindy
five.
as our head coach though, so
That's true.
any given
But
night they could play like 14 minutes.
But it is like at the end of the day, it is part of your lineup, and it is important to discuss. So my next thing is I don't really like the idea of having Kozak or Krebs on the third line. Like if you're actually like a real team, those guys are fourth liners. But what do you do? Now you have Malenstyn, Dunn,
Rosen.
Greenway. Yeah, you have so many options. What would you do? And that's not a knock on Krebs or Kozak or anything like that. If they can fill in on the third line, yeah, that's fine. But like ideally, they aren't. So what do you do? It almost seems like how I mentioned it was a Greenway versus Dunn thing. It almost to me kind of feels like a Krebs versus Kozak thing. And I don't really know which way to lean. Probably Kozak just because we've seen more of Krebs and we know what he is. And Kozak could have maybe a higher offensive upside just because we haven't seen him as much. What's your thoughts there? I really don't know. I'm really struggling with that one.
I do think the answer is that Isak Rosen. I think that should be his third line spot. Like it won't change
You
because
need a
they're winning
center though.
games right now.
That's the thing, but you do need a center unless you're gonna go
I think
Thompson,
you got to put Olsen at
Norris.
center. Like I feel like you drafted the guy to be a center.
I'm sorry,
I,
who at center?
I think Noah Olsen's got to be your center.
Oh, your third line center. Okay, I guess yeah. Okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
I think move him to center, move Kozak to fourth line center, scratch Krebs. I think that would be my ideal setup because I mean
Okay.
we have to kind of realize the fact that Norris and Kulik aren't coming back anytime soon. Like Kulik might not even return this season. Norris, I mean, there's really not a timeline on. So, it, if a scoring role does like need to be filled in that lineup, like say they're going through like an offensive slump, I just feel like Roseanne's got to. I think that he's easily your choice to toss in on that third line scoring winger role.
Yeah, I mean he isn't a big body and a third line. I don't know, there's either third line checking lines or third line scoring lines. You can kind of have a hybrid, but for the most part, they kind of weed themselves out into one or the other.
I think the
And
benefit though is they have a first line that could check.
that's true. That's true. And I mean, again, like it's not cut and dry. It's not black and white. Again, in today's NHL, you can't be like, well, we have three scoring lines and then we have one checking line, and that's just how it works. Like, no, you do need your other lines doing that as well. You need offensive contributions from your fourth line too. But it's just he has a dynamic of speed that can be used as a weapon. Look, he might not pace people off on the boards, but as long as he's not getting, caved in defensively and he's able to use his speed in some open space, I think, yeah, Isaac Rosen would be a very good choice for that third line. Now, when it comes to anyone going down on like the first or second line, I'm not necessarily willing to bring up they did this earlier in the season, Greenway onto the first line or
Hell
Krebs,
yeah.
try to put him up there. No, that's where And because they've proven it now, Östlund, Rosen can fill in there. I mean,
Yeah.
you have guys like Zucker that can kind of
First
go up
on
in there.
Jurgensen's. Remember that era?
Yeah, I also remember the era where Brandon Montour was playing frickin' forward for us, and now he's like one of the best defensemen. Oh my god. Anyway, we're not going into that. We're having fun today. Well, okay, we are having fun today. We do have some more topics to get through. Goaltenders. Were you surprised that Alex Lyon did not start today? And do you think that has anything to do with the report that UPL is not exactly happy about a crowded crease? What are your thoughts on that?
I was definitely surprised EPL got the start today. Yeah,
I thought
dude.
he played well, by the way. Sorry, just
Yeah.
put that out there. I thought he played well. So
No, yeah, he had a good game. So now he'll probably get the next start too. So now it's someone like Lyon. You're like,
yeah.
when's this guy? This guy probably won't play till Friday, Saturday at this point, which is another week from now. He hasn't played since I believe like it's been 2 weeks already
Well,
since his
he got
last
pulled
game.
in his last game, and it wasn't necessarily his fault. It was more just the coaches like, "We got to
Yeah,
do something here," kind of thing. So last time he like started and finished was a while ago.
yeah. It's just like I, that's a problem with the 3 goalie system too. But I think at this point, it's like I thought Colin Ellis was terrible. Like the last game he played, like I know people are saying the team in front of him played bad. I thought Ellis also just played
He
like
didn't help him.
terrible.
Yeah, can't
Like
have
he
him, man.
didn't help the team at
Unfortunately,
all. So
but like
he
that's
probably
what.
has the shortest leash of all
But
of them.
at the same time, I have some sympathy for him because, like, again, early in his NHL career, and Lindy's doing the thing where, like, and I don't necessarily blame Lindy either. Of just like, oh, you won this game, okay, play again. Oh, we won again, play again,
Yeah,
play again, play again, play again. Okay, you had a bad start. Okay, well now you're not going to play. Like that's after a while, your body's going to wear down, and you're going to just have a not so good game. We kind of saw that a little bit with Lyon as well. So, like, I don't think that's necessarily. I mean, sustainable. Could you do it? Yeah, but I don't think playoff teams are doing stuff like that. You know what I mean? So
yeah.
it's
Lindy's
tough.
from an era of coaches though, where he used to play like Ryan Miller like 68 games, and then or 70 games, and then you'd play like Jocelyn Tebow like 12 games or Patrick Williams. So
Yeah, Patrick
I
Lalime
don't
against
really.
like the 12 and 40 Philadelphia Flyers, and you're like, yeah, get in there, Pag.
Yeah, and I also wonder too, like I don't really know how. I mean, it varies team by team, but like someone like Ellis, like if Lindy's like, oh, we should send him, put him on waivers, or if the GM's like, oh no, we should keep him up. Like I don't know how that
Yeah,
dynamic works,
yeah.
but it's like Ellis will get claimed if you send him down.
Hmm.
Devin Levi has looked not great in the HL this season. So
Started strong, and he's tailed off, and
yeah,
got called out by Mike Leone, and that was something. And there was
I mean he hasn't
apparently
given
a
up
report. I'm sorry.
like every game in November. He's given up 3 or more goals, and he's only faced I think over 30 shots. Like I think I looked up like 3 of his starts this season. So it's not really like
Jesus.
he's like facing 60 shots a night on a terrible
Mhm.
AHL team. Like the Amerks aren't a bad AHL team. Even with all these
Yeah.
call ups, they're still not a bad AHL team. They've got some
Yeah.
guys down there.
Yeah.
So
Oh God, what's his name? Oh shoot. I'm not going to delay this any longer, but there's a guy having a decent start to his season. I'm going to look it up now because that's really going to bother me. But I agree. I think
Zach
it's.
Jones, I think he's a point per game player down there
Oh, is he?
on
I'm.
defense. Yeah.
It's Trevor Kuntar, I believe his
Oh
name is.
yeah,
Yeah.
Williamsville guy.
Yes. 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 So that is fun to see. Also, having him back in the area. So Amherst games are just fun, man. I went to the home opener. It was a really good game. Devin Levi, I will say, in that game, just because I was there, he did make some really key stops, especially late in the third period when they were trying to protect the lead. He did play for
I
the yeah.
think that's the thing with Levi though, is that he can make like those crazy saves, but it's like the consistency. Like that was the
Yeah.
thing with Dominic Hasek. I mean, not trying to compare a guy to him, but with Hasek, he'd make those crazy saves and also be consistent on top of it.
Yeah.
I think that's kind of where you need to be at as a goalie, and I think that's kind of been what he's struggled with, at least so far this season.
Still plenty of time. Still November, not even December yet, so he
Yeah,
still has plenty
still
of time to pick
time,
it up.
but
But if you're looking for him to come up and either make a I don't want to say like an emergency start, but for him to come up one day and
Scott
get a start.
Ratzlaff though, I mean ECHL, I think he's got a
Yeah, he's playing real
936
well.
save percentage in 7 games.
Yeah, so like that's the thing is, when do you try to get Ratzlaff maybe sometime in Rochester?
Yeah,
And they already have Topias Lilnonen, and they have
who
just
has not been good. He has not
he's
been
not
good there.
he's not been good either.
Yeah,
Levi struggled, but again, long season for him. You're probably not going to see him come up to Buffalo though for his little, one start appearance. They just put in this morning put Georgiev on waivers
Oh,
for
yep.
the purpose of contract termination, which I think we all kind of saw that when it wasn't, he didn't make the NHL roster
They
and he goes
said
down
it
to
on the
Washington.
NHL Network broadcast today. They're like, "Why did they sign this guy?" And I
I
was
mean,
like, "Honestly, I
it
have
was
no
just
idea
backup.
why."
You had no idea if UPL was going to be
But that's what a
healthy.
PTO is. That's what like a PTO is for. If they kept him on a PTO and then Ellis popped up, they could just end Gorgia's PTO at that time. Like they could have just
Well, I
given him a
mean,
PTO and then signed him after.
this is essentially this is kind of like a glorified PTO. Sign the contract, now it's just getting terminated. So like, I mean, I don't necessarily get it either. But again, this was when UPL was struggling, having his injury issues, and Colton Ellis wasn't in the picture yet, I think, or
No,
was
he
he?
wasn't. But he wasn't. But it's like just sign a guy on a PTO, and then when a guy like Ellis or when everyone goes down on waivers, which there's sure to be at least one or two goalies. I don't know. I just don't understand it.
Maybe it was one of those things where they had an agreement with him. They're like, "Look, you sign with us. We will try to find you a trade if it doesn't work out, and then if it doesn't, then we will do the contract termination. You can head off to Finland, Sweden, Russia, wherever you want to go play. Third tier in France. I don't care. Just yeah, sounds like Georgiev's out of there, so it will be Devin Levi. And I think that is kind of one of those things where it's like, all right, Levi, this is your net because especially if Lanone is not playing well, you have no one to fall back on. Ratzlaff, sure, but like, sure, he's playing well in the ECHL. It's also the ECHL. Not to knock it, very good players play in the ECHL, but there's levels to
Yeah,
this.
I just think Lenona though at the 866 save percentage because the AHL is a league where you have to play your backup goalie a decent amount. So there's so many back to backs.
Or like
I just
three and
think,
three. Oh,
yeah,
that
I just think
sucks to play.
you got to get better than an 866 save percentage from a guy that's playing once a week. That's just killer
Yeah.
to be
I
letting
mean,
in like that many goals.
yeah, and look, again, maybe there's some things in front of the net where the team isn't helping them out necessarily either. I remember the one game I went to, this is again home opener, but it's just what I can go off of. A couple goals went in for the other team where guys were either half tied up or weren't tied up, like right in front of the net kind of thing. And so if that's also happening for Lenonen, like that's, you
I
need
just
some
think
help
for
there
me though,
too. Yeah,
is
like
that
stats.
we've just seen Emirates teams that have bled shots that have given up a ton of dangerous chances, and Levi had a better save percentage behind those defenses
Yeah.
than he is right now. So I think that's kind of the concerning thing is for
Well,
a 6 foot goalie to succeed, they have to absolutely dominate the AHL. Like they
true.
can't just pass by.
That's true. That's definitely true. I mean, but it is one of those things where, like, I'm not trying to make excuses, but it could be the more shots you get, the more comfortable and in the game you get. But
Yeah,
the
it
less,
could be.
maybe I don't know. And then next thing you know, one squirts past you and you kind of get in between your ears. I don't know. Just saying, it doesn't seem like Devin Levi's going to be coming up anytime soon. Pius Lanonen, holy crap, what's going on there? Don't know what they're going to do with the three goalie situation here in Buffalo because it seems unsustainable. But the second the second they get rid of Colton Ellis, for example, or UPL or Lyon, who knows? I don't know. They get rid of one of them. Second, another guy goes down or something,
Or
or
Colin Ellis will
whatever it
like
is.
get like claimed by the Leafs and like go on like an insane run and like
Yeah.
carry them to the
So
playoffs.
I don't know what the answer is. I know we're saying, yeah, we'll see what happens, or I don't know, we'll see. I genuinely don't know what they're going to do with this because I kind of thought they were going to come to a solution by now.
Yeah.
So we'll see what happens. I think my determining factor, like, it's still too late for me necessarily, but by the end of the year. Like they have a pretty busy road schedule in December. What happens by the January 1st? Who's where?
Yeah.
Who's maybe injured? Who's back from injury?
Hey, do I get
Hopefully,
credit on my bull take though? Because I guess Colin Ellis was starter or considered the starter for at least a little bit. I remember our
what was your bold take that
preseason
he's going to be
episode.
starting?
I was like, Colin Ellis will be the Sabres starter at some point this season. So I guess on paper, you know, maybe he was for like
I think we got to
two
give it to you
games.
on a technicality. Yeah, yeah. No, I think you're right. So, oh man, where else do you come than the Sabermetrics podcast for scorching hot Colton Ellis takes? Uh, look, again, it was a bad game that he played, but the team wasn't great in front of him too. I just hope he gets another shot for sure and just kind of see what happens. If he plays a bad game there, then it's just like, all right, it was a cool experiment. Then we're out of here. We got to kind of stick with the more proven guys, but it's not like,
Yeah, well, that's just the problem though. A bad game, you're on the bench for a month with the three
yeah,
goalie rotation.
exactly. With 3 goalies as well. That's a good point because it seems like UPL is probably going to take over the net, and then they're going to try to want to get Lions some games, especially on back to back here. When's the next time Ellis actually plays? Just the 3 goalie
Yeah,
thing. It's just tough. It's just tough. But again, like I said, second you trade UPL, and it was a topic I thought about talking about UPL trades, but we're not going to get into it just yet, especially after the game he played today because it seems like he's playing pretty well, and I would assume he's going to get some starts coming up here soon. So I don't know. It's tough. Tough situation. Don't necessarily envy Lindy Ruff because he might even be like, because he's kind of basically said, like, I don't like this. And it's almost like
yeah,
Kevin Adams just like, well, that sucks because we're keeping them kind of thing. So I
yeah.
don't know. Not trying to say anything's right or wrong. It just curious to see what happens. It's more of a react once something happens versus, try to predict what happens. So let's talk a little bit about the Team USA thing. The Olympics are coming. They're coming up. And Bill Guerin was allegedly in the building today. And that is pretty good for guys like Tage Thompson and Alex Tuch, who I thought had a pretty good game. Respectfully for both guys. Thompson had a goal. Tuch, I don't know if he had a point, to be completely honest. I can't look that
No,
up, but
Tuck scored. He had the first goal.
oh, that's right. Sorry.
Yeah,
Yep. Yeah, it was a very nice play too. So I should have known that. Again, I actually wasn't able to watch the first period. I was having issues with Gotham Sports, so that is my fault. Apologies. But in general, how do you think the chances of Tuck and Thompson are for making the team? And this is, I want to do. We've done this before. You are Bill Guerin. What do you think the chances are? And then you specifically, Walt, what do you think the chances are?
yeah. That's definitely the tough thing. Like trying to put myself in a Bill Guerin's shoes because he's kind of a wild card. Like he has
Yeah,
guys he loves that'll be there no matter what. So
he's a
I,
goof.
I do think. Yeah, I just think, based on how the Four Nations ended, I think there's two ways you could go. You could blame like the injuries Team USA had as a reason why they didn't win. Like Quinn Hughes didn't play that whole tournament. Matthew Tkachuk went out in the gold medal game. So he's like, oh yeah, the problem definitely wasn't Brock Nelson, Trocheck, the bottom line. So, or you could say those guys weren't good enough and we need more talent to beat this Canada team. So I do think if he does take that route, I just think, having Tage, even if he's like your fourth line center, I was like just putting together like my mock roster this morning actually, and I put together like a Jason Robertson, Tage Thompson, Cutter Gauthier fourth line, which isn't really like a checking line per se, but it's a line that'll just generate just a goofy amount of offense. Like they'll have the puck in the offensive zone like their entire shifts, and they're big enough guys
Yeah.
where they can battle. I just think if you're Team USA, I would personally take the route where all four lines can score a goal if you need a goal. Do I think Bill Guerin will take that route? Maybe not. And that kind of makes me concerned for someone like Tage's chances.
But that's the thing. Like, I think Tage can do both. He can either play heavy or be on
Yeah,
that 4 lines. And like
he
the thing
can,
with
but will he think he could do both though? Like, will Guerin think he could do both?
I hope at least I hope so. I mean, Tage is on a 5-game goal streak. I think he's played a little bit more physical this year too. Nothing crazy, and he's not dropping the gloves or anything. But I think he's been using his body in the way that I think that Bill Guerin would appreciate if he was going to put him in his bottom six. But at the same time, it is a best on best international tournament. You're not necessarily building a fourth line to be like your shutdown line like teams do, like clubs do, because you just have so much overwhelming skill. You're probably going to, even in those, minute left, defensive zone draw, you're still probably going to be playing one of your top 2 lines because those guys are just good enough that they're just simply good enough that they'll play in those situations. So it is the thought process of I do understand where you're coming from, where you say 4 scoring lines versus, you know, 3 scoring lines and a checking line or something like that. I just really hope whoever gets left home, I hope they tweet stuff like Phil Kessel. That's all I'm saying. Ah, feels like
Yeah.
it should be somewhere right now. Oh, that's
Well, it
so
just
good.
seems at this point though, with like the emergence of a guy like Cutter Gauthier, with someone like Caulfield having a great year, with guys like Schmaltz
Yeah.
and Keller having great years, even with a guy like Matthew Nyes, who is younger but also a bigger guy, I just feel like this
Point.
year, especially, it would be even more insane to, have like a Brock Nelson on this team, to have a Trocheck on this team. I just think there's just way too many options now to kind of go back to what we saw in the Four Nations and Canada too. Like just talking about the younger guys there, like they could potentially be adding like Schaefer, Celebrini, maybe even Bedard too. Like
Yeah.
they're probably more skilled than they were in the Four Nations, a tournament where they beat the U.S. teams. So if Canada's potentially bringing even more skill, I don't think the answer for the U.S. is to try to run things back to what they did in the Four Nations.
Okay. Final 1 through 10. 1 being he ain't going. 10 being lock. What do you got for Tuch and Thompson making the team?
I think Tuck for me is a 3 or 2.5. I'd
I was gonna
say.
say I'm at 2, but yeah,
Yeah, I'd say 2.5. I
which
think,
sucks.
yeah, he has the vibe of a guy Garen will like. I just don't think he has
Yeah.
enough ties to him, and there's just so much depth on the wing on this U.S.
Yeah,
team
that's a
that it's
problem.
tough to envision a role for him. So
I don't think it's Tuck's fault. I think it's just too good of depth
there's
in
so
the
many
United States.
wingers.
Yeah.
That the U.S. has so many good wingers now. It's
Yeah.
crazy.
Okay, and Thompson?
For him, I think I'm gonna go with a. I'll go 6.5. I do think I do think the world's him scoring that golden goal was huge.
Mhm.
I do think him being on like some USA hockey. I just think he was on like an Instagram post when they had like the players meeting in the summer of him with like the US flag like draped around him. Like I don't think you would post that if that's a guy that has no chance of making this team.
Mhm.
And I do think he's been playing much better down the stretch. Had a pretty good game in front of Bill Guerin today.
Mhm.
So and also, yeah, throwing in the fact that Canada is probably going to bring a more skilled team this time around with the same amount of checking that they had last time. It'll just be very hard team to beat. Because like you have guys like we saw today with Jarvis, that guy has skill and can check.
Mhm.
So
He's a
I think
good player.
hopefully, I'm begging Bill Guerin to realize that you got to beat this Canada team with skill.
Yeah.
So I'm hoping he realizes that, and if he does realize that, I think Tage has a good chance of being on that roster.
I think it's who knows if they even play, but it's like a skill, but like you are the more physical team, but you still have enough skill to keep up with them because you have the Kachuk
Yeah,
brothers and stuff like that. And yeah, like those guys aren't
and
going to be
Eichel
as
Matthews are units too. Like those are
yeah.
big centers.
Yeah, so, like, it's not necessarily, like, sheer skill like, McDavid, McKinnon stuff, but being, like,
Yeah,
bigger, but still good enough to keep up skill-wise, so I'm really looking forward to the Olympics. Now, unfortunately, we have a couple not so fun things to discuss real quick. First, let's just get this one out of the way, the Calgary game. If I hear the team say we took them lightly or we thought we were gonna have a point game or we didn't respect our opponent or whatever, and you play on the Buffalo Sabres, I will spew on camera. Again, we've very good couple games here for the team, but it wasn't necessary. Like the team's gonna have bad games. Having bad games against the worst team in the NHL is really not good, but they're going to have bad games. And fair enough, they were honest and they gave out their thoughts, but man, if I hear that again, I'm going to lose it. It's unacceptable. So, wanted to get your take on just that game or, some of the things that were said after that. And one last thing is it's I kind of feel bad for Kevin Adams because I have it written here like losses equals like Kevin Adams got to go, especially like bad losses. He's got to go.
yeah,
But if they win these past 2 games, it's just like it just buys him like a little bit of time. They're like, "Yeah, come, we'll be back for you when things aren't looking too good," kind of thing. So like his position is like, we win 3 games. He's like, "Yeah, great." Fans are like, "Cool, fine, whatever." They lose 1 game, they're like, "GM, Kevin Adams needs to leave." So it's just tough situation for him to be in, mostly because he put himself there and so did his boss. But the Calgary game and some of the things that were said after, just to be fair, we've been very positive this episode, but that was a not so good game and didn't like hearing those comments. So your thoughts?
well, I just think this Carolina game was like a lifesaver because if they lost this one and didn't show up against Carolina,
Mhm.
and they go one really good game, one really bad game, one really good game, one really bad game. Like that's called 82-point hockey, and that's not good enough to get to the playoffs. So I think the fact that they're able to kind of end things today with, 2 wins in a row and like just
Mhm.
string together some wins is huge because yeah, that was a concern because they lose to a very bad Flames team, like just get outplayed. They lose to a very bad Blues team,
Yeah.
just get outplayed. And it's like saying that like we kind of overlooked our opponent. Like that's kind of like being like it's like kind of like
Can't
playing
happen.
like in like the Horizon League in college basketball and like overlooking playing like a Big Ten team. Like it's
Yeah.
just the Sabres aren't in any position to overlook any opponent. They just have to take,
Yeah.
just go on your phone and look up the NHL standings and look where your team is in the standings. Like you're not
Yeah.
that far above these teams that you're overlooking. So I think, yeah, it's definitely concerning to hear them talk like that. And it does. Anytime I see those tweets, I'm like, is this from tonight or is this from like 2 years ago, 3 years ago, 4 years ago? It could be from like any one of those seasons. So that's kind of the main concern. And then yeah, like you brought up with Adams too, with like people being like, "Oh, we got to fire him. Oh, maybe let's give him a chance." I think right now, like once we're playing the actual games, we're kind of just seeing the trees. By the end of the year, we'll be able to see like the whole forest. And I think the decision on whether or not he's gonna be back next season definitely depends on whether or not they could break this playoff drought. Because I can't envision any scenario where this team misses the playoffs again and they're like, all right, let's just run things back one more time. Like it was
One more
crazy.
time.
It was crazy they did it this season.
Yeah.
And one could argue even last season was crazy they did it. Imagine doing that this
Again.
far down the line, like 22, 23 by
Yeah.
next season will already be 4 seasons ago.
Yeah.
Like that's just insane.
Yeah. So it's not the best spot there. But like, I mean, the if they have a couple bad losses, they're talking like he needs to go now, and like Brendan Shanahan needs to come in, and Yarmo needs to take
Yeah.
over and stuff like that. So it's just
I mean, you're not going to be able to do much in season. Like, just look at how close these standings are. No team's going to be like, all right,
yeah,
let's
let me
move some
give
huge
you a good
pieces now.
player. Yeah, like no team's gonna go bottom out just because they had like a somewhat not great start to the season. They're gonna be looking to add, not subtract for the most part. So yeah, good luck to them. But hey, at the same time, a couple games in a row, if they can beat Pittsburgh as well, that's a really good spot going into Thanksgiving. I shouldn't say really good spot. It is a really good spot from where they were, especially to start the season at 0-3. So still need to play at like an almost 100-point pace, but to keep winning, that pace dwindles a little bit. And I think they have like a game in hand or two, maybe. Sometimes they're tied with some teams above them, but they have a lot of teams to leapfrog. Luckily, they have a game or two in hand as of right now, but you got to win those games. So that is the most important thing is for the Sabres to beat Pittsburgh on Wednesday. Last not so fun topic. Really don't want to talk about this, but now we really need to. When do we need to have a serious conversation about trading Alex Tuch? He hasn't signed yet, and you don't want an asset like him walking for nothing. Like I hate having this conversation. It needs to be had. When is it time to be like, look, we really need to explore this? Is that time already passed because it's past the beginning of the season? We were talking preseason, like, how worried are you going to be if he isn't signed by the season? We're like, yeah, a little worried. Well, we're well into the season now. It's Thanksgiving. He still hasn't signed. When do we have that conversation? Unfortunately, this will be our last topic. It's a little negative, but it is very important for the future of this team.
Yeah, I think that's a tough one because like just for me personally, I'm someone that even after this fun Hurricanes, when I'm still kind of leaning towards this team has to rebuild. Like I know I just feel like too many times the Sabres team like even in situations where it doesn't make a ton of sense, they're like, oh, we just have to like try to keep all our good players. We just have to try to keep these guys till past their expiration date, and then they're not able to build a team around them. Then their value just drops a ton, and then you're kind of stuck in this no man's land where your team's too good to bottom out and get a high draft pick. So you'll never get that Bedard or Celebrini. You're going to be settling for your Mirkos and Helleniuses, who aren't bad prospects, but they're not pieces that
Game
will,
changers.
yeah, that are going to change the game and turn your team around and make it to the All Star game every year. So that's kind of what I'm battling with right now. Because at some point this season, and we'll have much more info on this later once they play more games. But you have to be like, are we a playoff team now? Could we win a series or two this season? are we a team that's probably going to miss the playoffs this year? Because I think if you're probably going to miss the playoffs this year, I don't see much sense in trying to run back the same core. I'm probably just trying to get what I can for a guy like Tuch, seeing who still wants to sit through this retool, trading the guys who don't, and starting from there. So I don't know. I don't want to have to be the guy to be in charge of this, but so I don't really envy Kevin Adams here in this situation. But I do find it interesting that like some reports came out that it was like the Sabres who aren't willing to go into double digits. Like I think if that's the case, I'd love to know what Tuck wants to sign for. Like he's like $10 million right now. I'll sign the dotted line. Like I feel like that's so easy. Like I think it gets a little more difficult once you start talking about like 11 and a half, 12. But if he's willing to sign for under 11, I'm just doing that right now. And then if we have to rebuild, that contract's probably somewhat movable down the road. I know it's tough to imagine now, but the cap's still going up a ton. And 5, 6 years from now, a $10 million contract will be the equivalent of like a $6 million contract in today's NHL.
Also need to consider. Yeah, well, to go off your point first, I will say we don't necessarily know where the salary cap's going. We know it's going up, but how much, and will it peter out in 1 year or not go up as much and stuff like that. So that is one thing, not for this specific scenario, but just in general, I am a little worried about. Just you don't want to sign anyone too crazy. Speaking of Bill Guerin, holy crap, Bill, what happened out there in Minnesota was crazy. But yeah, I think you're probably at a situation with Tuck. It's you have to or get off the pot, because and it's also another situation of signing bonus. Where's where is Tuck coming in
Yeah.
when it comes to signing bonuses versus the Sabres? Because the Sabres are pretty historically not keen on signing bonuses. Ryan O'Reilly. So like
It's just their strategy, apparently. It's not them being cheap. It's just a strategy to
exactly.
have.
So that could be a hang up as well. Or Sabres are like, look, we really don't want to give you 8 years. We want to give you 5. I don't really think that's the case, but I'm just trying to give a scenario. So if it's not, I say if it's not if it's not signed by December 31st at 11:59 p.m. in January, you're calling teams. And I'm not ready to say this team needs to rebuild or retool or whatever. I still want to see a little bit more and just kind of see where they're at maybe 3 weeks from now, just to kind of see how they do on this, really long road December that they have coming up. But at some point you do need to see that he could be walking for absolutely nothing on January 1st, on July 1st. So I hate to say that, man, but that is probably my specific date of when they need to seriously consider trading him. They might want to put some feelers out now. Just, hey, if this were to come out, or if this were to come up, what would you be willing to pay right now? And then maybe circle back on it and see where they're at. But it's getting there, man. I mean, we're about a month away from me pulling the plug and basically saying like, nah, we gotta unfortunately need to move on. So does that sound about right to you? Or are you more like, no, I mean, move them now if you can, or where are you at before we hop out here?
That sounds right to me, but I do think like with the Sabres as a whole, like just even as a fan, I'm kind of thinking like if this team's goal is not to win a championship, like why are we even trying to play the games? Like their goal is just to make it to the playoffs and using like the old like, oh well, anything could happen. Like sure, like the Kings won a cup as like an 8 seed. They also went on to be like a dynasty.
That was
Like
crazy. That was crazy. They took out
further
the
on.
1, 2,
Yeah.
and 3 seed. That was a wild. What was that? 2012? I think it was.
Yeah, it was a while ago.
It's
But
crazy.
it's like I don't know if the Sabres exactly have those young pieces where it's like, yeah, these guys are a dynasty in the waiting. They still seem like a
Yeah.
team that's just hoping they can make it to the playoffs. And not too different than like the Bills team that broke the drought. Like that was a very fun team that broke the drought, but I think they quickly realized like our goal with our build is kind of break the drought. Now we have to kind of flip the switch and try to win a championship. And in hockey, it's just much more longer term. Like you can't just flip
Yeah.
a switch after the Sabres break the drought and be like, all right, we're going all in for a cup now.
Yeah.
there's just not as many movable pieces. Like guys re-sign with the teams that draft them a ton of times. Like sure you can
Yeah.
make a few trades, but it's like your core is your core for the most part. And I I don't know. That's kind of where I battle with as a Sabres fan. It's just like I just don't feel like heading into every season this team's goal is to win a Stanley Cup. And I don't even feel like as a fan, it's my expectation that this team will win a Stanley Cup. And they're
Yeah.
in what's considered to be win now mode. And like why is our win now mode? Why is a Stanley Cup not the goal?
Yeah. I mean, they'll tell you it's the goal, but you know,
Yeah.
or you'd be asking us to not believe our own eyes. So
No, yeah, it's kind of like if you're like a just like a random college football team like Tulsa or something. It's like Tulsa goes into the season and be like, our goal is to win a national championship. But like everyone knows, like it's not realistic. I
yeah,
just feel like the
yeah,
same way
yeah.
about the Sabres team. Like they'll tell you the goal is to win a championship, but everyone
Sure it
knows,
is.
like,
Yeah.
yeah, like everyone knows they're probably not gonna win the Stanley Cup this season.
Well, just make the playoffs, and you never know. Well, just make the playoffs. So that's hopefully at least the goal is to just make the playoffs, and we'll see what happens. But yeah, I mean, I understand where you're coming from. I see that, but we still have some games to play. Haven't
Yeah,
haven't
still
gotten
some
through
hockey
November
left.
yet, so
It
still
could
some
be a
hockey left.
dynasty. They could
Could
win 25 in a row right now. Go get 120 points in the regular season.
I've been saying that for a couple of weeks at this point. So yeah, that could certainly happen. Colton Ellis is your 50 game starter, and Zach Benson has 0 goals and 100 assists this season for a 100-point season.
Yeah.
It'd be great stuff. Well,
I,
he's
I
gonna be
loved
he's
how I loved how Tage let him pick up another assist today too on that empty net goal. He like passed it to Benson and then Benson passed it back to him.
well, Benson's like you're on like a 4-game goal streak. We're getting you your fifth
Yeah,
right there.
Benson's
So
like I need to have that 0 goal 100 assist season this year.
Benson seems like a guy that could commit to the bit. And you know what? I respect that. So I think, yeah, look, it was a little negative towards the end of the episode, but again, those were just some topics we needed to get through. Maybe we should have done them to begin with. But yeah, really positive game against Carolina. Very, very good team. I think the best team points wise in the NHL, if I wasn't mistaken. Definitely the best team in the East. So really positive game from them. Next game isn't until Wednesday. We will not talk to people before then. So happy Thanksgiving. If you celebrate, if you're in Canada, hopefully your Thanksgiving a few weeks back was good. But we appreciate your listening as always. Not exactly sure when our next episode will be, but I think maybe a live stream or something like that. We've been enjoying those recently. So we are back with our normal recorded episode with this one. But going forward, I think got some more stuff coming up. So looking forward to it. Walt, final word for the folks.
My final word is that the butter dish win streak will be a thing this season. We're reversing the curse of the gravy Zambonis. So watch out for this butter dish win streak. I think it could hit 10 games.
Sure hope so. We'll catch you on the next one.